Peace and love, family. Welcome to another powerful discussion with your sister, Dr. Ma'at. Before I get tonight's discussion started, family, I introduce to you Conscious Ingenuity Institute. A lot of you have been, I don't like saying following me, I like saying connecting with me. So we've connected over the years, and you've seen the various programs that I have founded and co-founded, Ashe. And so I do introduce to you Conscious Ingenuity Institute. We offer a number of youth empowerment programs. We have the Conscious Ingenuity, which builds confidence, capability, and character through STEAM, which is a double A. So that's science, technology, engineering, art, agriculture, and mathematics. Also, family, we have a program called the UACI STEM Camp. All right, we're offering this camp. This camp was co-founded with myself, between myself and Baba Amin. Shout out to the Uhuru Academy. This is a virtual STEM camp, family. And so make sure that you get your child enrolled in this. And also, family, we offer the Asafo Training Camp, which focuses on manhood development in young boys between the ages of 12 to 14. And then we offer a compliment camp, right? The Goji Training Camp, which focuses on womanhood development in young girls between the ages of 12 and 14. Family, I want you to head on over to Conscious Ingenuity Institute and get your child enrolled in these programs today. And these programs, did I say they were free? I don't think I mentioned that they were free. They are free, family. They are free. So make sure that you get your child enrolled in these programs. Family, without further ado, I bring to you a good brother of mine. I would say a friend. I would say a comrade. Dr. Boyce Watkins, man. A lot of you have seen what's been going down with Shannon Sharpe. You saw what happened with the Sanders family. And so you know that Dr. Boyce Watkins talks a lot about Black wealth, right? And more importantly, he talks about how to protect Black wealth. So I said, you know what? I need to reach out to the good doctor to talk about, this whole Shannon Sharpe thing and Deion Sanders and his son. And also lately we found out that China outed American luxury brands. But did they really out American brands, or did they just kind of just tell us what we've already known? So anyway, family, without further ado, I bring to you our brother, a warrior for our people, Dr. Boyce Watkins.
Let's combat and fight back with maltracks. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classics. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maya.
A BB Fahodie, a BB Toomey, a BB Wan. Peace to all of my thinkers, truth speakers, and truth seekers. Welcome to another Truth to Power Talk with your sister, Dr. Ma'at. Thank you for joining another powerful discussion. And tonight I have with me another powerful guest, but he is no stranger to the community and to this platform, Dr. Boyce Watkins. Peace and love to you, Dr. Watkins. How are you?
I'm doing great, sister. I love that intro song. I was like, yeah.
You was on there jamming, Doc.
Yeah, that was nice. That was real nice. Shout out to the artist that made that one. I love that.
Yeah, shout out to Day, a good brother, good friend of mine in Baltimore City. Shout out to brother Day. Doc, I just want to encourage everyone. I see you brought in, the B1 family, and they're here in full force. So peace and love to the B1 family. Family, take a moment out right now to thumb up this video. I know some of you are watching it on Dr. Boyce Watkins' platform. Some of you are watching this on my platform. Thumb up the video, thumb it up, thumb it up, thumb it up. Also, family, share this video. We want to each one teach one. And in 2025, we can do that by simply just sharing things on social media. So share this video. And also, family, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live, you will be notified, right? And so if you're watching on my platform, head on over to Dr. Boyce Watkins' platform, right? Subscribe to his channel. If you're on his channel, head on over to Dr. Ma'at's platform and subscribe to my channel. All right, Doc, look. A lot of stuff has been going down. It's been going down in these social media and mainstream streets. And, I thought about the Shannon Sharpe situation, right? And immediately when everything came out, with him and, and all this is alleged, right? All this is alleged. Don't flag me, YouTube. But when all of this stuff allegedly, occurred and came out, I immediately thought about you. because for a number of years, your focus has always been building Black wealth and protecting Black wealth, right? And so when I saw what was going on with Shannon Sharpe, right now the girl is trying to get $50 million from him. He offered her 10 mil. She didn't take the $10 million offer or didn't accept it. And now, it's 50 mil. She wants 50 mil from him. So he may stand to lose millions. And I know you just recently did a video and you were talking about his bad decision making. And you also talked about Black celebrities and how they make bad decisions, which cost them their wealth. So Doc, I just want to ask you this: if you could give us just your analysis of the Shannon Sharpe situation from an economics perspective.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Dr. Mad, I first off, my goal is not to be nasty, mean, or judgmental, or holier than thou, or perfect, or anything like that, because I think you don't have to be a perfect man to help your brother elevate a little bit, right? Or your sister, and etc. I think we should support each other in that way. What I saw with the Shannon Sharpe situation was very disturbing to me, because when you mention celebrities making bad decisions and losing their wealth, I see it slightly differently. I say they're losing our wealth, right? I'll give you an example. I looked up, and I put this on my Instagram because I wanted to see what people thought about this. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance, right? And I put up this post where I listed the 15 HBCUs that have the lowest endowments in America, like Simmons College and Harris Stowe State, etc. And I said, isn't it fascinating that Shannon Sharpe's 21-year-old Instagram girlfriend has more wealth than all of these 15 HBCUs at once? I mean, Savannah State University, where Shannon Sharpe went to college, has an endowment of $12 million. This young lady will have more money than all of Savannah State University by the time Shannon gets done paying for the orgasms that he received. If no one else is disturbed by this, then it's disturbing to me that more people are not disturbed. There is nothing logical about it, and given that you're a smart person, you can connect dots. You and I both know math. We know that 2 + 2 is 4. We know that 2 - 10 is -8. And so if you're trying to figure out why Black wealth has been going down instead of up, Black wealth has dropped by about 37% in the last 15 years, then you can look at situations like this and know that Black wealth declines because of the Black mind. Not everybody is included in this. Not all men or all women would, engage in such shenanigans.
Right.
But the fact that something like this can happen, and not happen once, but happen 1,000 times.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, the fact that this could happen and over again, and no one says, hey, hold up, wait a minute. This is not acceptable. I mean, think about this. If a white man calls us the N-word, we out in the streets protesting. Somebody gets shot by a cop, of course we're going to be out in the streets protesting. If Donald Trump says something like, I don't like Black people, then we're in the streets protesting. But when things happen that have a direct impact, just a direct nuclear strike right at the heart of our financial security as a community, we just let it slide. We let it go by. We get into celebrity worship. Well, they did him dirty, and Shannon Sharpe, you just be hating on Shannon, and we need to stand by this. But no, he fumbled the ball big time, and people need to talk about that.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this, Dr. Watkins, because you brought up a great point. You said that this keeps happening over and over and over. What do you think is going to take for Black men, and I'm speaking specifically about Black men, because we're talking about Shannon Sharpe and Black men who have lost millions of dollars due to making these bad decisions. What is it going to take for them? Because I in my mind, and Dr. Watkins, call me crazy, but I'm thinking, Shannon Sharpe, you're 56 years old, right? So you've been around. You clearly know the hustle. You know the game. So why did you think you were exempt? So in my mind, I'm like, how many examples do we need to see? And I'm thinking about Black men. I'm asking you because you're a Black man. How many more examples? How many more Shannon Sharpes, do we have to see, even, and peace be upon his soul, I'm thinking about Kobe Bryant. He got into, a situation, and, and it's so many others. How many examples do they need to see in order for them to say, you know what? I'm thinking about Cat Williams said, in a recent interview, not a recent interview, he did an interview on Club Shay Shay, and just recently a clip of that interview has resurfaced where Cat was like, look, there's nothing wrong with white women, I think they're awesome, but he was like, I'm scared of them. So how many more examples do black men need to see to adopt Cat Williams mindset? Like, hold up, I may, be attracted to one, I may see one, but I know the history between them and black men, so let me make a different decision. What do you think is going to take for that?
Well, the good news is that there are lots of men that are watching this, and they're seeing this go down, and they're learning from that lesson, right? Most lessons are costly. Sometimes you pay tuition in the school of life. They have that old saying that says, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. There are lots of men that I think are going to learn from this, that are watching this and saying, oh my gosh, I don't want that to happen to me. But then there are those of us who are a little more hard-headed, who don't learn our lessons. They say that a wise man learns from his mistakes. A wiser man learns from the mistakes of others.
That's right.
And not everybody is a wiser man. Sometimes our addictions can override our logic. You ever talk to a crackhead, and a lot of the smart crackhead can tell you, you can tell them what the drug is doing to them, but they don't care. They can probably tell you more than you could tell them. But the high from the drug, the joy of the drug outweighs the long-term health consequences. So to some extent, white supremacy is a drug. White women, for some guys, are a drug. Sex is definitely a drug. When you look at the dopamine and all the other chemicals that go off in your brain when you are experiencing sex. And so really, it's not going to stop happening. It's going to happen again. And it's sort of a partnership. It's a partnership between people that haven't been strategized to think carefully about life, or maybe they've fallen for the fairy tale of integration to believe that life is good, life is fair, racism is a thing of the past. Maybe for some young men, maybe it's a lack of guidance. They don't have that smart, intelligent parent there to help them avoid some of these landmines. And the other part of that partnership is America itself. White supremacy is designed to create these sorts of barriers, obstacles, and predatory situations. We know for a fact. I said that, I joked with my friends the other day, Dr. Mott. I said, man, wouldn't it be amazing if you could go and sue one of your exes that did you dirty and get $10 million because you told a story? I mean, I said every one of us would have it. We'd have 10, 28 million extra dollars, because I know I got some exes that did me to hurt my feelings, took my money, stole my dignity. I felt assaulted, but for whatever reason, that privilege is primarily reserved for white females. White females can do that, but that's been true all throughout history. We know what that is. But even in some cases, you have it's not so much just the beneficiary of that system, which would be white women, but a lot of other women that are not white in some cases. It's really the black male as the target that makes it easy. There's a analyst right now with Fox Sports named Joy Taylor, and she happens to be black. And Joy Taylor, when she got her job, according to many media reports, and according to a lawsuit that's in court right now, she was sleeping with the boss, this older white guy that gave her the job. And then she started sleeping with the co-host, according to the lawsuit. And when the person that was suing the company said, she asked Joy, like, hey, what if you get caught? Like, this is not, you're going to get in trouble for this. And she said, that's okay. I'll just accuse him of harassment, and then it'll make it all go away. So she made a joke about falsely accusing a man and destroying him. And she was talking about the white guy. She wasn't even talking about her black co-host.
Right.
But still, though, what it is that you have these sort of weird phenomena. I don't know a single man who's ever been able to sue based on being mistreated in a relationship or assaulted. Not to say that that's to put that lightly, but I think at the very least, if there was such a situation, the burden of proof should be a little bit higher.
Absolutely.
And right. So because so far all we've seen are her text messages and her story. We don't know what Shannon did or did not do. But then that's the point where you got to get realistic, in the sense that after you stop finally figuring out that life ain't fair, you have to start saying, well, how do I even the playing field by being a little more strategic? And how do you help these brothers that are engaging in this very unfair process, this very rigged, very biased system where you're entering into these relationships where the white woman has this massive advantage over you that you'll never have? How do you think carefully about that? Because in many cases you have these brothers walk right into the lion's den, and then they get ate up, and then we say, "Oh, it was the racism." I'm like, "Yeah, it was the racism combined with your stupidity."
Absolutely.
Again, it's a partnership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you mentioned, not you mentioned, but yesterday I looked at your Instagram, because I do follow your Instagram page, and you had me cracking up. You put up a post of, it was a shot from Get Out. So a shot from one of the scenes of Get Out, and it had the black dude sitting there, the main character with the white women on the side. And you said, these are, this is the NFL draft, right? This is the players from the NFL draft. And I laughed to myself. And even though it was funny, and I think I put like laughing emojis under your post, even though it was funny, what you were saying was true. Like I don't know if these players or these young brothers understand that they get targeted. They will go and take a brother that's at one of those predominantly white institutions. They see he got some potential, Dr. Watkins, and they will invest. They will invest time, energy, sex, whatever. They will invest it to get to that bag. And I really hope that brothers start to see that she, and you know who I'm talking about when I say she plays that long game, right? So I'm gonna grab you when you're a freshman, right? You got some potential. I'm gonna invest in you, and I'm gonna hope that eventually it pays off. But I want to say this, Doc. Why did you post that, and what was going through your mind when you put that up?
Well, first off, I got it from somewhere else, so I can't even take credit for it. I just thought it was hilarious. I said, "Yeah, let me put this over. This is kind of funny." But I'll say this. I think that it reminds me of places that I've been to, like Los Angeles, where for whatever reason, a lot of the black men don't like black women very much, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me because I love my mother, and my love for black women started with my love for my mother. I was loyal to her, and so when she told me when I was 16, she told me that a lot of her black female friends have a hard time finding a good man. That was her experience. I said, okay, well, I want to be a good man for a black woman one day because I want to be a good man for my mother. My greatest source of pride in life was being an asset to my mom. I still remember when I was 12, she was in the grocery store and I helped her do something. She said, Coco, you are such an asset. And I don't know why, but I was bubbling with pride. I didn't know what an asset was. It just sounded good. It sounds better than being an ass.
Right.
And she got on the phone with her friend Charlene, her best friend, and I said, Mama, tell Charlene what you said about me. She said, what? I said, that I'm my asset. And she told her, and I was so proud of that. So being an asset to my mother, I think, is what made me want to be an asset to a black woman. It made me want to be an asset to my community, which I think a guy like a Shannon Sharpe would understand that because he played on teams. He wanted to be an asset to the team. You want to help the team win. And so I have a hard time really processing and understanding black people that have no loyalty to the team. That are caught up in this selfishness or it will even undermine the team, right?
Absolutely.
Fight against the team, destroy the team. And we will still have loyalty to them, even though they have no loyalty to us, which is weird. Like we'll sit there, we'll let some rapper call us the N-word, talk crazy about black women, share messages that get our kids on drugs, tell our little boys to go out and shoot somebody so they can go to prison for 40 years and all these other things. And we'll still love that person more than we would love an activist in our community who's taking care of children. We will love that person more than the black school teacher who's buying school supplies for black babies. We certainly love them more than we love the black mothers who give birth to us. They give us life. And so to be quite frank, when in those spaces where you see this sort of disdain for the black female, I'm thinking part of it might be familiarity breeds contempt. Perhaps that person's experience with their black mother wasn't as good as mine.
Exactly.
Right. Shannon Sharpe, if you look in his history, Shannon Sharpe did not grow up with his mother. He was raised by his grandmother. That affects you. That'll affect your relationships with women for the rest of your life. And so I think so when I put that up, I was thinking partly about the Shannon thing, but really more deeply about how many other men you see doing that. And it spills over even into the spaces where you have the men that would just sit around and talk crazy about black women all day long. And to me, that's just sort of a sacred violation of black masculinity. To sit around and just complain about women all day is kind of weak to me. Number two, because really, you're really telling on yourself. You're telling me what kind of women that you've chosen to deal with. You're not telling me about black women. You're telling me about your experiences and how you're choosing to not take accountability for your role, or maybe you're talking about hurt that needs to be addressed with a therapist. And so ultimately, this disdain for the black woman, I think, leads us to put these other women on this pedestal that they haven't earned at all, right? But she's a white woman. Of course, she's next to Jesus, right? Of course, she's an angel, right? So in a way, and you have black women that have done the same thing to some extent, not as often. Black women are much more loyal to us than we are to them. But generally, I think that it's people pick who they want to pick, and I'm not one to be I'm not Dr. Umar. I'm not gonna go and point my finger in your face if you got a white girlfriend or nothing like that. But I am the person that says, what's happening here? And why don't you understand how amazing, how beautiful black women are? And why can't you just accept the fact? Two things that you have to accept. Number one, there's diversity in the mix. You got everything from Felicia Rashad down to Sexy Red, right? You got a range, right? So if you don't like the range that you're exposed to, pick a better range, right? My wife don't relate to Sexy Red. I don't. I'm gonna be honest. I would not date a Sexy Red,
right?
Right. But then the other part I think you got to kind of look at is acknowledge what black women have gone through. Just acknowledge the history. And all of us, every one of us is listening, has seen scenarios where there was a black woman cleaning up for everybody else, lifting up everybody else but herself. My mother, right before she died, she talked about how she would cheer other people on, but she never learned to cheer for herself. So that selflessness that you see with so many mothers, a lot of these Negroes in the NBA, they got there because they had a single mother that was struggling to get them the best of everything, so I really don't understand it. And I think the last thing that's in there that's interesting too is you mentioned something in the beginning. You talked about playing the long game, learning, seeing relationships as a way to invest in that person you want to be with. I think that one of the artifacts of the struggle that so many women have had and the strength they've had to overcome the struggle is this false narrative that you don't need a man, or you shouldn't be thinking about men like that until you get to the point where where you done got all your degrees and done made all your money and all that stuff. And the white girl's going to college and picking up that man at 21 years old and looking at him as a life partner. She's looking for a husband at 21, and you're looking for a husband at 36. Right after you finish medical school. I think that's a different kind of trail, which I think honestly is built on what can happen in terms of us losing the ability to trust, which circles back to what happened with your father growing up. My little theory, just like Shannon Sharpe, I have no doubt that his mother not being there for him as a child affects the kinds of women he's attracted to, the situations he puts himself in, his trust for women. Well, think about the fact that 70-something% of all black women don't even have their father in the house. Yeah. And a lot of them don't have their father around at all. That's going to affect how you treat men. And the reality is that men will pick women who treat them well. Nobody wants to be abused, even if you have a good reason to get mean and have a trauma response. Even if you went through all kinds of hell, I'm not going to want to be with somebody who's going to be mean to me, or get upset with me, even if they have a good reason for it. So I think that all of us have a lot to learn from that in terms of what it means to define what your values are. Are you an ally to the black community or not? You show your ally, you show your love for the community by what you invest in. If I sit here and I say to you, hey, I love black people, I really do, but here's my wife, Becky, right? That right there sends a signal to you that, yeah, you're important enough for me to talk about, but maybe I'll do some black dances or something to make you think I'm black. But when it came time for me to make the biggest investment in my life, which is who I marry, you're not good enough for that. I picked this other person over here. So really, I think all of us can learn from this. I think if we learn and try to understand, as opposed to just criticizing, which I do some of that too. I ain't gonna lie, but I try.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. Yeah, we all criticizing. Yeah.
Right. Then I think we'll get more insights into the root of the issue.
Absolutely, Doc. Absolutely. And earlier you mentioned HBCUs, and you talked about the endowments, and you said that she's actually this this white. I don't know. I think she's white. They said Gabriella or something. So maybe she may be white. She may be Hispanic. I don't know. But you said she stands to gain more money than the endowments of, what do you say, the top, the bottom? I think you said 10 HBCUs. But my question to you, Doc, because when you mentioned HBCUs, I immediately thought about the new executive order, right, that Trump signed. And presidents from different various universities, HBCUs were sending an email out. They were letting everybody know about this new executive order that Trump signed. And I was very perplexed by Dr. Watkins, because I said, okay, in one breath, on one hand, you say you're trying to destroy or dismantle DEI, right? And then on the other hand, now you're talking about investing, I think it was 300 or 500 million annually into HBCU. So it seems like, it's contradictory, or, a contradiction. But what are your thoughts? What was your thought about that executive order, and how do you think that's going to impact the Black community?
I don't think it's impacted very much, just because I was confused by it at first when I saw it. And I was like, okay, I know Trump has a mixed history. I know that we like, politics teaches us to label everything black and white. For a lot of us, it's like, okay, if you're a Democrat, you're our friend. If you're a Republican, you must be an enemy. I don't believe that. I got friends on both sides of the aisle. I got some super pro-black friends who are as Republican as you can get. And I got some pro-black friends that are Democrats. And what it comes down to me, Dr. Mahat, is there are just different ways to express your blackness, different things that matter to you. So, for example, if you're pro-choice and you're okay with what Planned Parenthood does, but it would make sense for you to be a Democrat. They wanted my mother to abort me, so I'm not going to be a Democrat. I didn't become a Republican, though. I'm not a Republican. I voted for Cornel West, but I'm not supporting the abortion of Black babies. I'm not going to stop nobody from doing it. I'm just not going to fight for it. And so, long story short, I think with Trump, it's more complicated than the world wants us to believe. I don't believe he wakes up every day saying, I hate Black people. Let me go find another Black person to attack today, because that's contradicted by the history. For many, many years, he would go to the Rainbow Push meetings. Most people in here haven't been in any Rainbow Push meetings. For some reason, he was in all those meetings with Rainbow Push and Al Sharpton and National Action Network, all that stuff. And I'm like, that's kind of strange. Why would he be doing that? Every rapper wanted to take a picture with him. And it wasn't, he didn't become this racist until he became a Republican, because that's what we're told to believe. So my point on that, though, would be to say, if you look at the specific numbers from my research, even though Trump did the executive order for HBCUs, my research so far tells me that the Biden administration did a lot more, that they did, the dollar amount. So I think from a financial standpoint, I think HBCU support was stronger under Biden than it was under Trump. I think, though, at the same time, though, I don't walk around living under this idea that that my biggest racial threat is the Trump administration, just because I've never really believed Black people have any true friends anywhere. I've never felt, I'm old enough to remember the Biden crime bill and all those people he locked up in our community. I just, and then his son ends up on drugs and they don't do nothing. But, I know I got a lot of people I know, that good people that have done 20, 30 years. And I think that that's patently unfair. And I don't see how we can just forget about that.
Right.
I really, truly, if I had one dream, Dr. Mott, it would be that I wish that we could all collectively be as loyal to our families and to our community as we are to the Democrat or the Republican parties.
Absolutely.
If we had the same commitment, we fought as hard for ourselves as we fight for those people, we nothing could stop us.
Yeah.
I saw people raise millions of dollars for Kamala Harris, but wouldn't give a nickel to a Black-owned school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Would do nothing to, and it's kind of crazy to me, because I like to see solutions that actually work. You and I both know mathematics. We know what it means to solve a math problem versus just pretending like you solved it. Versus getting up at the chalkboard, waving your arms and drawing a bunch of crap on it. No, you got to really get a solution, and you can verify that. So in my view, all these things that we're putting energy into clearly are not solving the problem. Why is that? Well, because Black wealth has continued to drop over the last several decades. Black children are probably the worst educated that they've been in a long time.
Absolutely.
You got millions of kids that are going into the economy are not prepared for anything. The Black family is at a state of crisis. It's in many spaces just non-existent. There are some neighborhoods where children think it's a fantasy to even consider the idea that you're supposed to have two parents in your house and not just one. They don't even look, there was a young lady I mentored, and this was years ago when she was in high school. But I said, how many of your friends have a father at the house? And she said, none, not one. So we've now restabilized a broken family as sort of the conditional default state for the Black community. And I blame media and politics and everything else, because what they then do is they come along and they say, oh, you got this, girl, you strong, you can, you know what I mean, you look, you're a hero, you single mom, and she's up here dying under the weight of trying to pay all the bills and protect the kids, and all the kids, all these terrible things happen to the kids without the protection of a father, because they've told you your men are worthless, you don't need your men. And I believe that they remove that man as the protector and the family as a protector, so that your new father, your new stepdaddy becomes the government. And it becomes corporate America. So your white boss has more authority in your household than a Black man ever could, which not only creates this false illusion where then suddenly when he cuts his DEI program or decides he wants to punish you financially, you go crazy. But then on top of that, when a man does try to step in that space, he's like, well, I can't even get in here because there's already another man taking over this territory. And in fact, it might be the government, it might be the white employers, it might be Jesus. There's a whole lot of things that block Black women from having a good man. And I personally think that this is all a game. I think it's designed to keep the Black family vulnerable. And the reason I know that we're more vulnerable in that state is one piece of evidence is that the lowest net worth in America, the lowest median net worth in America, is that of a single Black mother with children. Her median net worth is $5. For white women, it's like $42,000. For the Black mother with children, the median, not the average, but the median.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, right. To make sure everybody else, it's $5. five damn dollars. Right. So I think that we have to just sort of realize that in order for us to elevate out of this, we're going to have better leadership, and that leadership is going to have to fight and empower itself without the support of white American mainstream systems. Right, your next great set of Black leaders, they're not on TV. It's not some rapper, comedian, or athlete. That's what they do. They tend to elevate, especially Black men. They elevate them if they are rappers, comedians, or athletes. Your greatest Black leaders are people in the home, people in the community, people that are really fighting for what we care about, and those are the people that we have to make sure we support. Absolutely. And that's going to require rewiring of our thinking.
Yeah, rewiring of our thinking, and also, Dr. Watkins, our values, our thinking and our values, because I'm a huge fan and supporter of the work of Dr. Amos Wilson. And he often reminds us that our behavior is rooted in our values. So you just sit back and watch somebody's behavior, you know exactly what they value. And so I agree that definitely a rewiring of our thinking, and then also our values. And then your values are connected to your culture. So I also agree with Dr. Claude Anderson. In his book Powernomics, he talks about how Black people, we practice a disempowering culture. And so we need to, like you said, rewire our thinking and then revamp our culture, and of course, values and principles and philosophies. All of that is under the umbrella of culture. So I think we just need to do a whole rewiring of all of that stuff. Doc, let me ask you this. So the NFL draft, I don't know if it's still going on or if it's ended. I don't know, but I do know that it started a few days ago, and everyone was looking forward to Shedeur Sanders getting, recruited. They thought he was going to be a first round, pick, and then when it didn't happen, different people started speaking out. Shannon Sharpe, Ocho, I think his name is Ocho Cinco. Ocho, Shannon, they said something. Then the other guy, I forgot his last name, but you know what I'm talking about, the sports guy. But he said something. So different sports personalities were talking about, the fact that he didn't get drafted. And then all these theories on social media started circulating, right? Well, why wasn't he picked up in the first round? So then people started pointing at Deion. They said, oh, his father's too opinionated, and he intervenes too much. And then it went from pointing fingers at Deion to pointing fingers at Shedeur, right? And hopefully I'm not butchering his name, but Shedeur. And so people say, oh, he's too cocky, he's too confident. And we think that the NFL right now is trying to teach them a lesson. And so we did learn, I believe, yesterday that he got picked up in the 5th round, and the Browns picked him up, even though they'd already picked up, a white boy who's a quarterback. What are your thoughts on that whole situation? And what made me think about that is when you started talking about Black fathers. And so I said, okay, let me ask him about Deion Sanders. What do you think about that whole situation? A lot of people said it was a public buck breaking that we're seeing, and it was collusion that we were, witnessing in the NFL against the Sanders family. So what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Watkins?
Well, first of all, I think if you start with fatherhood. I love Deion Sanders as a father. He's not just my favorite player. And people always say, "Oh, you're just saying." I say, "No, if you went in my office, I got one jersey on my wall, just one, and it's his. It's signed by him when he played for the Cowboys, and I went out of my way to buy that because the man was just a phenomenal athlete, and I love his story of transformation. I love how he, he talks about how he had all this money and fame but he was still empty on the inside because of what he went through as a young man. And then he found God, and how that really filled him up in certain ways that money could not. And I bring that up a lot because that's the thing. Sometimes we think everything's all about the money. It's like, no, you got to have something in your soul that anchors you, because material possessions cannot anchor you in anything. And also he had a couple of situations with, he's the only other person I know besides myself who had a father and a stepfather that were both hooked on drugs. When he said that, I said, "Oh my gosh, wow, I didn't know anybody else had gone through this." And then he talked about his father not coming to any of his track meets or football games in high school. And I said, "Well, that happened to me too." So I identify heavily with Coach Prime. And then also when he talks about manhood and fatherhood, I love his message and I love what he's doing. It's great to watch. It's so great. Now with Shedeur, what was interesting to me was I too was surprised. I thought that Shedeur was going to go very early. To see him just sitting there on the board for that long, I said, "Uh-oh, something done happened. Somebody, it's clearly collusion." I think Stephen A. Smith accused the NFL of collusion. And I said, well, that's not no accusation. Everybody knows that they're partners, that they collude. Like, there's nothing shocking about that. They're a monopoly. They've been colluding for a long time. Like, so there's nothing there in terms of, to me, I didn't see a smoking gun. It's like, obviously they colluded because look at how talented the boy is. Super talented. If the collusion were not occurring, he would have got picked up 8th, 9th, or 10th. Like, that's how the teams do it. They say, if so-and-so's still available, we're going to grab him. So Shedeur is that kind of an athlete, and I hope he has a great career. Now, here's the part about it that was really confusing to me or maybe it gets a little old to me after a while. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. I think I get a little bit tired of us complaining about what white people do with white-owned businesses. I get tired of people expecting that you can go into a business that's owned by another community and they're going to treat you like you're from that community. To me, that tells me that you have been made high on this drug of integration. You've been smoking that dope, and it's made you delusional because you believe that I can go into a business owned by a white man, he's going to treat me like I'm white. Or that I can go into somebody else's space. I can go to another man's house and he's going to treat me like I live there. I don't live there. That's not my house. That's his. And so with Shedeur, they all decided to not pick him. And it's their right to do that because they are the team owners. And now black men and black women, we used to be team owners. We used to have something called the Negro Leagues.
That's right.
But which would be worth maybe as much as the NFL is right now, because we had the best athletes.
We sure did.
But what happened? We gave it all away because we were happy for one Negro named Jackie Robinson who got a good job. We traded ownership for a good job.
Come on.
And if you understand economics the way I understand economics, ownership ain't the same as a job. Mm-hmm. And the NFL owners, their families have understood this for 100 years.
That's right.
Why? Well, because they have kept ownership very sacred. They owning a majority stake in the NFL team is so hard to do that it ain't even just about the money. You can have the money and they will still say, no, we don't want you here. Right? You have to. So what it is that they've made their league so valuable that it's like, no, this league is more valuable than money. Because we got some things that your money can't buy because we only want to affiliate with certain people. And that's the type of economic protectionism that we should have in black neighborhoods and black communities, black owned businesses. I know you right down in Baltimore when I was down there and y'all had that beautiful Black Wall Street situation popping
Yes.
off on that tour, walking through the street. I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is sacred.
Yes.
This is beautiful. And I was contrasted with the stories Brother Jabari told me, and he was driving me through Baltimore and he showed me a rundown mall and he said, yeah, this used to be full of black owned businesses 50 years ago. But the kids didn't want the businesses because they don't want to go work and get jobs for white folks. So I kind of think that one thing that we have to understand is that there's nothing surprising about what happened this week. Here's what happened.
Good.
The teams colluded to keep Shedeur from getting drafted. It was probably because of things they saw in the interviews with Shedeur that they did not like. Is it fair? No, it's not. But life's not fair.
That's right.
And life's especially not fair when you're in a subordinate position of power.
That's right.
Now, if you want to make things fair, you don't have to go work for that business. You don't have to go work in the NFL. You can either go to another league or you can start a league of your own. Mm-hmm. Famous black men and women and athletes and celebrities have had the ability to have their own sports league for probably 30 to 40 years. Mm-hmm. We done had the money. We've had the power. We have the connections. We got all these white folks around us that claim to be our friends, these connections with corporations and banks where we can get the sponsorships. We could have started a black-owned professional sports league a long time ago, and I believe the community would have supported that. But instead, you have to look at news stories where Shannon Sharpe tricks off $10, $15, $20 million to an OnlyFans model. You have to go and look at other situations where we've blown the bag. And so, in my view, I think that we don't understand that Deion Sanders was one of the 10 greatest players of all time in NFL history, but he was never an owner of any team. Never. He was always just an employee. And you can't pass a job to your children. He's showing you that. Isn't that crazy? There's two big lessons we learned this weekend about the white women taking all your money when you can't control your sexual urges. But that's Shannon. Thank you, Shannon, for that. He was the master teacher. The other master teacher was Deion Sanders and his amazing family, which showed you that no matter how good you are on the football field, you still don't get to control what's happening on that field.
Not at all.
He can't even get his son on a team, and his son has talent. His son is so good.
Yeah, I heard. Right. I saw his stats.
Right, but if he was Jerry Jones's son, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, he could show up 400 pounds with one leg and one eye and still be wearing a Cowboys uniform if that's what daddy said is going to happen.
That's right, because he owns the team. He's the boss.
Exactly. So you got to pay the cost to be the boss. Ownership is the only true power in America. And if you own nothing, then somebody probably owns you.
Yeah, and Doc, I mean, I can't. I'm gonna tell my students to watch this. Drop the link for them tomorrow and tell them to watch this discussion between you and I, because that's what I preach in my class. You know, I'm an engineering professor and I teach ownership. You know, you engineer, teach us engineering. No. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship. You know, a lot of our young engineering students think that making it is working at Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and Northrop Grumman. And, you know, I don't know if it's Black and Decker still a thing, but it used to be a thing back in the day, or going to NASA and working for the government. And I was telling them that you want to be in a position of power, you know, and I told them that while you're at the university, you know, use the labs as your playground. You want to innovate while you're there and patent something and then capitalize off of that which you have patented. You know, you don't want to be, you know, during your senior year sitting there filling out job applications and praying for a job interview. You want to create. You want to produce, you want to innovate. I said, and then you can create your own jobs. You can make your own money. And guess what? No one can turn around and say you're fired. No one can turn around and say, you know what? We have to lay you off, because you are now the owner and control. You now dictate your career path. And so I'm happy to hear you talk about that. And that's the mindset that we have to instill in our children, not the go to school and get a good job mindset. No. Go get an education and then go, as Dr. Claude Anderson said, go create jobs, right? Not go get one, go create them. Go create, go produce something. And so that's the mindset that we need to inculcate in our children. But we don't have that mindset. That's why you still see the same old thing. And I tell them often in my classroom, I say, you know, you all think that you're doing better than your ancestors. Oh, we're not on those plantations anymore. Oh, I'm not in chattel slavery no more. Oh. No. you basically in the same predicament. And Dr. Claude Anderson talked about that. He said, man, you know, in the 1800s, we only own what 1%. And when they control 99% of the wealth. And here it is 2025, and we're still in the same boat. You're still on the plantation. The NFL is a plantation. When you go to these corporations, these are corporate plantations. So you're still there. And in their mindset, they think it's 2025. I'm doing better than my ancestors because I make, you know, six figures. And that just isn't the case. What we should be, what we should be aiming for, first of all, is liberation. Liberation and sovereignty is what we should be aiming for. Liberation and independency. So if they cut us off, DI, guess what? We have our own. You know, but the reason why people are panicking right now, because we don't have our own. Dr. Watkins, let me ask you this. And
before you ask the last question, can I throw in a point? Somebody mentioned it in the chat and I forgot about this. But we were talking about those who understand the sacred value of ownership and how ownership is about more than just the money. Because if you only focus on the money, you might miss it. Because sometimes as an owner, you and I both know, sometimes when you own something, you ain't making all the money.
You ain't making,
right? Right, yeah.
Freedom, it's freedom. It's your autonomy. It's your freedom. Go ahead, Doc.
Right. Well, check this out. A lot of people don't even know that. Even to show you how sacred the NFL owners were about ownership, even Donald Trump in the 80s tried to own an NFL team. And they told him no. They said that he ain't even black. He's a rich white boy. They told him, no, you can't own the team. The whole story is he created the whole USFL just to get leverage to negotiate for ownership of an NFL team. Wow. So he had to go build his own. They said, nah, we don't want you, sir. And so what I'm saying to people here is that really when you have that self-esteem to say, you know what, this baby I gave birth to, this little thing I own is more important to me than anything that I could be doing out there, right? I could go babysit your full-grown child. Maybe your baby's a little cuter than mine, and your baby's 16, 17. My baby's a newborn baby. Maybe they're small and sickly, but this is my baby. I'm gonna nurture this baby. This little baby business.
That's right.
And this is where my attention's gonna be. Then I have a lot of control when that child finally grows up and becomes successful. I have the influence that only a mother or a father can have. And that is what the NFL is. The NFL, people don't know, the NFL for about 40 years was an ugly, sickly, little ugly ass baby. For about when the NFL first started, you could buy the Chicago Bears for $100. You could buy the New York Giants for probably about $200. The 1930s, half the teams folded because it was the Great Depression. And so, but there were people there who said, no, but this is our baby. We're going to pour into this baby because this is our intergenerational baby. And because they kept pouring into it and kept protecting it, then the 1950s came along. The NFL started to do a little bit better. People came along, said, hey, we'll give you $100,000 for that little raggedy sports league you have. They said, no, thank you. This is our baby. It's not about the money for us. And then next thing you know, the Super Bowl comes along in the 60s. And even that's raggedy. The first Super Bowl halftime show looked so bad, Dr. Mott, that it was worse than like even a high school football game. I'm talking about like a tiny town's high school. It was bad. And you fast forward all the way up to today where you got Kendrick Lamar and these multi-million-dollar productions and all these other massive television deals. They had to grow that. That's what I'm saying. That's what I want people to understand. And they grew that across multiple generations. Those same families still own those teams. Kansas City Chiefs, you go to the Chicago, the Hallis family, things like that. So what I'm asking Black people really in general, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt and jump in.
No, you good. No, okay. Let's go.
So is I'm asking them, what is it that you're pouring into now? What little ugly ass baby are you pouring into that you're feeding and giving the attention to that's going to become the something massive for your children, grandchildren, great grandchildren? What are we nurturing now? Because sometimes what happens is because we don't play the long game, we get distracted. We let the baby die so we can go babysit somebody else's teenager.
That's right.
Because that's what you are. When you're chasing jobs, I'm sorry, but that you pretty much are an economic babysitter. And no matter how much you babysit somebody else's child, you will never be a parent. That is not your child. The parent can walk right in, snatch that baby up, and put you out, even though you've invested years into that child. And so if you want to know why Black wealth is going down, Dr. Mott, it's because we spend so much time being economic babysitters and we don't understand how to become parents. We don't want to become parents because it takes too much work.
Fire! 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 Fire!
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Dr. Watkins. Woo, I'm over here, man. I'm over here like say it, but Dr. Watkins, oh my goodness. But let me I want to close out with talking about this and I'll let you go. China.
Mm.
So just recently, China has been flooding TikTok and IG with videos. They're telling the American people, these corporations are getting over on you. You all are paying thousands of dollars for bags that cost us $200 to make, or you guys are paying hundreds of dollars for tennis shoes that we're making over here for $15, $20. They even went as far, and shout out to my aunt Segment. She may be in the building. And so she sent me an article where the Chinese people were saying, hey, you can even come over here to our manufacturing shops, and these same brands that you get over in the United States, you're paying all this money for, you come over here and get it for cheap. We'll let you come over. We invite you to come over and get these brands directly from us. What was your thought about that whole that whole ordeal? What was your thought about it? Did you feel like China's out in the US, or did you feel like they didn't tell us anything we did not already know? So what was your position on that, Dr. Watkins?
I think that I think Trump went about his tariff policy in the wrong way. Tariffs, you have to be really careful with tariffs. They have to be done delicately. Trump is not a delicate person. I actually empathize with their logic behind the tariffs. What they're saying is that the United States does not protect its homegrown industries well enough, and that needs to be addressed. If you look at history, even though American prosperity has increased since, say, NAFTA and when the World Trade Organization gave China most favored nation status, that prosperity has not been distributed equally. In the last 40 years, workers' wages have remained pretty flat, while CEO pay has gone up by 1,300%. The stock market has been on fire. That's why I tell my students, please buy stock, because that's where the money's at. What we have not done in this country is consider the American worker in that equation. So when people talk about tariffs, they bring up the logical point that sometimes tariffs can be inflationary. But inflation is important, but you also have to consider what does that do in terms of protecting jobs. And so when China gained most favored nation status, a lot of manufacturing jobs went to China. When NAFTA came along, a lot of manufacturing jobs went to Mexico. Ross Perot was one of those people on a national stage in 1992 who said, if you pass these laws, this is what's going to happen. And he knew the cities, the Milwaukees and the Detroits and all those cities were going to get hit hard because companies want to go where the labor is cheapest and they can manufacture things for almost nothing.
Yeah.
So I hear what Trump is saying on that point. What Trump has done, though, unfortunately, is because he's not a person that has the personality of an adequate leader. Obama had the personality. Trump's got the guts and the balls that I wish Obama had. I wish Obama had, fought as hard for black people as Trump is fighting for his billionaire friends and whoever he's fighting for, but unfortunately Trump is, he has some mental health issues that cause me concern for a lot of people. And Trump has rolled out the tariffs just in such a sloppy way. It's been very disrespectful, very abusive, very aggressive. It's disrupted long-held economic relationships. And believe me, America's going to pay a price for that. The U.S. dollar is under attack because of that. The value of the dollar could be affected long-term because of that. Because the U.S. was always seen as kind of like this place that had what they called American exceptionalism, where because we believed in the rule of law and people could invest their money here safely and the markets were liquid and all these other great things. Trump is really disrupting a lot of things that people worked very hard to put in place. So I don't agree with the way he's doing the tariffs. And I think he needs to stop. China is that country that I don't think we can win a game of chess with because they are incredibly gangster, incredibly slick. They understand powernomics. If Dr. Claude Anderson was selling powernomics books in China, everybody would read one because they already have powernomics implemented in the Chinese culture.
Absolutely.
Group economics is already a thing there because they teach the children. I taught a class in China in 2006, and I would talk to the students about their culture. And when they're raised as children, they're raised to think about the group above yourself and to commit to the group, and that you don't even want to, like the way loud rappers get loud and flashy and all that. They say we don't like that because you're not part of the group. So there's a lot of group think there, and also they think very long term. So they do two key things that lead to economic power, which is why they're gonna dominate the world probably about 50 years. They're already on their way. One is they think wide collectively. They do things as a group. The United States is all over the place. Everybody's fighting with everybody. You got people in their own. You got cousins fighting each other because I'm a Democrat and you a Republican, right? So we can't agree on nothing. The Chinese are pretty connected in that way. But then the second thing they do is they have a very long-term vision. They'll have a company and they'll write like a 200-year plan for their company. So they'll sacrifice for 20 or 30 or 40 years in order to position themselves for the next 50, 60, 70 years.
Doc, and we've seen that. I just want to interject really quickly. We've seen that. We've seen how they became, a first world power within one generation, focusing on reverse engineering, right? Like you said, focus on reverse engineering. They got products from different places, figured out how they worked, began manufacturing them, selling them back, took their best and their brightest, sent them to universities around the world, brought them back to build China. And so, Doc, I'm over here excited that you're saying these things because we've seen it. And I just wish that our people would look to them as just a model. I'm just a model, Doc, of how they're moving. I'm not saying that, we should be holding, but at least look at how they moved and how they were able to empower themselves literally within one generation. We're talking 20, 30 years. They went from being what they call a third world country or developing country to a first world power, Doc. And that's what we've seen China do. But like you said, it all boiled down to their culture. They created a culture, Doc, that was based on, like you said, group economics. It wasn't individualism. It was communal, doing the words I'm trying to look for. It was about the greater good, right? Not just what you want. It was about the greater good and doing what's best for their community. So, Doc, I agree with you 1,000%. 1,000%. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what if we put that pressure on our Black celebrities to say, we're happy that that white folks give you all this money, but you're a product of our community.
That's
the
right.
Community is more important than you, and so that's why I think with Shannon Sharpe, that's an opportunity for us to say, hey, man, you didn't throw away your money, you threw away our money, because the Black community made you. You went to an HBCU, you had Black people that raised you. We fed you and loved you before those little girls on OnlyFans even gave you any attention.
That's
so
right.
why are you acting like we don't have a say in this whole situation when we are the originators of all this? You can't produce the Black woman is the only woman capable of even producing a Shannon Sharpe or a Coach Prime or a Michael Jordan or a Shaquille O'Neal. Like, there's no other woman on earth that can give birth to children that have such extraordinary athletic abilities. So our athletic ability, among many things, is our $1 trillion asset. And so the question becomes, if you are the mass producer of a $1 trillion asset, how come somebody else always ends up with the money? Do you see what I mean? It's bad culture.
That's right.
It's like a strategic thinking, lack of group cooperation.
That's right.
And so the reason China is going to circle back on China, the reason that China is going to be a massive threat to the United States is because they think wide and they think long.
That's right.
So right now, for example, a lot of countries don't let Chinese electric vehicles into their country because they know that the Chinese will sell you a product and lose money for a decade just to gain market share so that they can have controlling and get the profits later on. They know they're going to make their money. They just don't need to make it right now. So they'll send an EV that's as good as a Tesla. Elon Musk will be selling it for 30,000. They'll be selling it for 10. And then once they've got millions of customers, then they start to increase the price once they've gained market share. That's something that the United States doesn't do because our corporations are forced to think quarter by quarter, year by year. Our politicians think, in 2 to 4 year cycles. They're people able to think long term. So you can't really win a negotiation against somebody who's got infinite patience. If you read any book on negotiation, Dr. Ma'at, the person who's got the most time is usually going to win. So the Chinese are like, okay, we'll wait. And then they're also using Trump's aggressiveness against him. They're going around to all these countries around the world and they're strengthening BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, the alternative currency situation. They're strengthening their economic relationships. They're using the fact that the United States has been positioned as an enemy of the world. Yeah. And they're using that to circle the United States by going and forming relationships all around the world. So I'm hoping what bothers me the most about that conflict is that it could end up in an actual war. Because the Chinese understand that. They know that the way the United States handles their economic frustrations is they pull out that military. So China has had the greatest military buildup in the history of the world in the last decade or so. So they're preparing to fight they're taking stuff and they're preparing to fight to defend it, which is going to make the world less stable because of the things that are happening right now in the Trump administration.
No,
So
absolutely.
and I didn't even answer that question about the bags. to give the short answer on that, I think a lot of us knew the bags were made cheaply in China.
Yeah.
But I think it's hilarious that they're doing it. By the way, I
thought it was
yeah.
Doc, I thought it was funny myself. I laughed when I saw that they were doing it. I said they trolling Trump. That's what I was thinking. They're trolling, at this point. But one thing I thought about was this, and I did see you had posted a video. Again, I'm talking about your Instagram page. You posted a video of a woman who got approved for a Birkin bag. And like she literally, Doc, was she was just falling out, all over the place. And I said, golly, we really need to throw our values away, right, and adopt healthier values. And so when folks were asking me about the Chinese situation, I said people are going to continue to buy those brands. That didn't hurt anything. I said people are going to continue to buy Gucci and Louis and Chanel and not Burberry, but Birkin and all of that, because that's what they value. So until the values change, the money's still going to float to those. The money is still going to go there because the values need to change. So when we no longer value those brands, that's when you'll see them take a hit. But as long as people value those brands, people don't care what China said about them. They're going to continue to buy. What are your thoughts, Dr. Watkins? And we'll close out.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the research on why people buy luxury brands, a lot of it goes to deep psychological and emotional needs that haven't been filled. Not to say everybody who wants a luxury bag is messed up mentally. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying that when you see just that degree of desperation that people have to have luxury items, there's something attached to that item that's deeper than just the financial value of the item. I mean, really, you're paying $2,000 for a bag that costs $100 to make. There is a symbolism that comes with that leads to a type of validation that you never got from somewhere else. So part of the effort to develop economics in the Black community means we must validate our children early. That's so right. They don't spend money chasing and buying their self-esteem. That's what you're buying yourself. You're when you have these labels, and it's not just the labels on the Birkin bag. There are other expensive labels that we buy. We will go $200,000 in debt to get a college degree from a big white university. We'll walk right past. Some of us walk right past the HBCUs and go just so we can go to Harvard or Yale and get that label. And be in debt for the rest of our lives. Black wealth drops. Student loans is the number one killer of Black wealth, by the way. We also, we'll get labels that come with a job, right? You've got a father who's running a auto shop, and you think that that's raggedy because it's not a name brand. So you want to say, I work for Nike, I work for Google, right? Or you go to Hollywood and you say, I won an Oscar, I won a Grammy. And what's interesting to me about it, Dr. Maad, is if you use, for example, the Oscars as an example, this was something that they made up, actually. They just created the Oscars because they didn't want to give the actors more money. They said, well, let's give them some self-esteem. Their egos are big. Let's tell them how wonderful they are. And then we can avoid paying them. So what happens is that you get that dopamine rush of the validation, and it takes your attention away from the money, because drug addicts are not very conscious people. You can go rob a dope addict. Right. So effectively, we got to get off that dope. I would say that the people I know who are best able to keep their money in their pocket when something comes along that's trying to tease it out of you are the people who are just very self-aware, people who know who they are, people who say, no, I don't really need to give you my last $200 for me to feel better about myself. I already feel better about myself. My mom, I love me. My mama loves me. God loves me. I don't really care if you love me. I think just that idea of going through life as a Black person without needing validation from other communities is very powerful, because then you
Absolutely.
can say, you're right. You could say, I don't care what you think about me. I'm thinking about what I think about me, and I'm thinking about what I need to be doing with this wealth that's already inside of me. Right. I don't need you to label me to make me feel successful or worthy. I am worthy. And because I am worthy, I'm going to go and give that worth, give that value, give that wealth
back to our
people I care about.
That's right.
I'm pouring into them. I'm not waiting for you to pour into me. I'm not going into the world as an empty vessel who's going to buy his self-esteem at the mall.
No,
right? And so or get it on OnlyFans with poor Shannon Sharpe, right? This man gonna end up paying $20 million, just to feel better, right? Or whatever. And when really he could probably spend $50,000 with a therapist to help him overcome the fact that his mother was never there to love him the way she should have.
that's right.
So really, I would end on this point. I think that good therapy is very powerful. Good therapy, self-reflection, really knowing self-worth, but really knowing it in a way where you keep your feet on the ground, but you feel strong and powerful, and you can kind of go through. And so you go through the world almost like a rock, like meaning when it gets windy, you're not going to blow whichever way the wind blows. Studies show that Black people follow trends more than everybody else.
Yep.
I believe it's because we don't know who we are and we just want to do what everybody else is doing.
Facts.
Studies also show that Black people worship celebrities more than everyone else. So what corporations know is that if they get a celebrity to endorse a product, Black people will buy it, even if that product it could be crack with roach poison in it, and we will still go buy that product. So what all that speaks to, Dr. Ma'at, is a lack of validation that should have came from your community. It should have came from your family. It should have came from the people that you love. Like the reason I don't buy luxury items is because I remember my mama telling me that you don't need somebody's label on your ass for you to be somebody. She was like, you don't need to wear those Nike shoes and this and the other. You are somebody, even if you butt naked without a nickel in your pocket. And that just stayed with me. So now labels you're not gonna get my last couple of dollars for a label. That's a sucker's game.
No, absolutely. And I love how you brought it full circle. You said that when we learn that we don't need anybody else's validation, then that will translate to, and I'm paraphrasing, valuing what is in us, our families, and our communities, right? We'll be able to value that because now we won't be looking outside. And there's a principle of my eye that talks about, it says internal first. Value what's internal before you value what is external. And that's what I heard as you were speaking. Doc, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with me tonight. And I want to salute the B1 family. They came in here full throttle. Shout out to the B1 family. But Doc, do you have any closing words for the listening audience? Any closing words?
Well, if first off, I think building culture requires building new habits, and building new habits requires repetition. So I don't know if you know this, Dr. Ma, but every single morning I do free financial class every single day.
Yeah.
7 days a week. Yeah. And so people want to join us, they can just pull out their phone and text the word morning, MORNING, to the number 87948, 87948 on their phone. And we call it Money in the Morning. And the reason I started doing that is because I said, okay, in order for us to be really serious about this thing, because I believe we can do anything. I believe we can't be stopped. I believe we are the greatest people on the planet. I said, but in order for us to do this, it's going to take everything we got. We're going to have to reprogram ourselves. And programming occurs through repetition, repeating the same thing over and over and over again, repeating your self-talk over in a certain way, just really practicing loving yourself. I think I can only say in my journey, I found that self-love was the cousin of self-confidence. When I learned to love myself, I became confident in myself. And it wasn't artificial confidence that had to be masked with lots of arrogance. It's real confidence. It's like, no, I really know that I know I kind of know I'm the shit, but you the shit too. We all the shit.
That's right.
Right?
Like we all
we got the juice. We got the juice. We the best. We the baddest. But you got to put forth that kind of effort. You can't fake it. You gotta really do the work, love yourself, warts and all, and then get out here and love yourself enough to invest in yourself. That's right. Like my beloved late mother used to say, that which you invest in, that which you put your attention on, that which you pour into is that which will grow.
Come on.
Right. So if you look at our communities, if you ever go through a Black neighborhood and you see it dilapidated and torn down, well, it's because nobody's investing in it. When you see a child that could have become anything, a brilliant young child who becomes a thug, well, nobody invested in him except maybe the local drug dealer.
That's right.
Right. So in my view, we have to sort of understand on the flip side of that, other things have grown because we have invested in those things. The NFL is worth hundreds of billions of dollars because Black people invest in the NFL.
That's right.
The NFL, the last Super Bowl was the blackest extravaganza you ever saw. There's Black people on the field, Black people on the stage. Black people everywhere except for the owner's box.
Come on, that part, except for
Right.
the owner's box.
Right. And not one of those owners is getting brain damage in order to grow this league. We out here delivering babies and sending them off to get brain damage to grow the NFL. So we are invested. Without Black inventors, you won't have what?
Oh no, go ahead. I was just splashing while you were talking.
I thought you were showing your shirt. I was like, oh, okay. I was reading that. That's a great shirt. But yeah, so really, we invest in lots of things. The problem is that the things we invest in don't circle back to us.
That part.
And that's all. Because I mean, we put out the energy, we put out the time, we give the attention. So economic consciousness means being thoughtful about what you're investing in and whether it circles back to the people that you care about. So you circulate those dollars in your community. You invest your time and attention into your families and into the things that matter. Think about this. We'll spend more time. We'll spend 4 years in college learning how to go get a job for a white man.
Come on.
But won't spend an hour learning how to be a good father or good husband or good wife or a good mother.
Come on.
How much sense does that make? That job can be taken away from you in a second, but your children are going to be with you for life. Your family, and so again, investment. You see those corporations grow because we're giving them our labor, but then you see the families breaking down because we're not investing time in maintaining those families. So we have to shift all of it, shift the education process, shift everything. And it all starts with the word love. You love yourself, you love your people, you love your community. You will invest in what you love, and that which you love, that which you invest in is that which will grow. Started off with love. So thank you, Dr. Mai.
Hey, thank you.
That.
Look, thank you. And look, Doc, before we get out of here, speaking of circulating your dollars, I know a lot of people right now are complaining about them trying to erase Black history. And I said, instead of complaining about it, right? Invest in tools that promote and teach Black history. Meltrek is a tool, family. We have 3 films, and my moderators, they've been putting the link in the chat. We have 3 films that you can download right now. 3 films that teach Black history to Black children. Meltrek Episode 1, Exploring Ancient Africa, teaches our children that our history doesn't begin with slavery. Meltrek Episode 2 teaches children about the Black and brown presence in the Americas prior to Christopher Columbus. Meltrek Episode 3 focuses on the origins of the transatlantic kidnapping trade. Okay. And so right now, we see, what's going on, and they're taking down, information on Harriet Tubman, information on, Frederick Douglass, information about, I just recently heard, and shout out again to my aunt Segmet. She was saying that the Smithsonian African-American Museum of History and Culture, the Smithsonian Museum of African-American History and Culture, she said they are now trying to dismantle the slavery exhibit that's on like the bottom floor. And so just recently they removed the exhibit that taught viewers about the lunch counter sit-in that occurred in Greensboro, North Carolina. I think in 1960 to be exact. And so we want to make sure that we maintain our history. We don't want to sit and complain about what everybody else is doing. Let's support the solutions that we have. Meltrek is a solution, family. So please head on over to meltrek365.com. Grab your Meltrek films, your Meltrek books. All right. And last but not least, head on over to consciousingenuity.org and get your child in one of these youth empowerment programs. Okay. We have 4 programs, a STEAM program called Conscious Ingenuity, where we build character, confidence, and capabilities through STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, agriculture, and mathematics. We have a virtual UACI STEM camp. Shout out to the Uhuru Academy. And then shout out to PLM for co-founding the Asafo training camp and the Agoji training camp. Both of these camps focuses on manhood development and womanhood development and young boys and girls between the ages of 12 to 14. And guess what, family? All of these camps are free. They're free, Dr. Watkins. All folks got to do is just sign up, for the STEM for the STEM camps, Dr. Watkins. We actually send them computers. We send the children laptops. We send them a STEM kit. So they just have to get online. All they need is internet access. Get online with us, for 4 hours, 2 weeks during the summer. So family, I just dropped the link in the chat. Please make sure that you take advantage of these programs. Dr. Watkins, again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I know you're very busy, but when I called you and said, Doc, I need you to come on to help me unpack this, you said, I got you. And so I appreciate that. And before we go, The All Black National Convention is coming up, right? In October of this year. Did you
Yeah,
all secure?
actually August 24th. It's a little bit earlier this year.
Oh,
Yes.
so you all are doing it in August. Okay. Did you secure a location yet?
Yes, it's going to be in Atlanta, and we're partnering with Dr. Ken Harris and the Black Business League, and it's going to be it's our 10th anniversary, and it's their 125th anniversary, and so it's going to be big. So be thousands and thousands of Black
I'm
folks.
coming. I'm in the building. I'm coming.
I can't wait to see you, and I'm excited. It's the first time we ever did a partnership, and it's and the goal of that space is to create a space of just love and support, and really having each other's back. And really elevating our consciousness in terms of thinking about what we have to do, making plans, building families, and celebrating how great we are and how great we can be. And it's worked out quite well. And so the website is allblacknationalconvention.com. The tickets are not on sale yet, but it's allblacknationalconvention.com. And if people want to be notified when tickets come out, if you just text the word morning to the number 87948, you'll get access to our free morning class, but also you'll be invited to the convention first. So text morning to the number 87948 on your phone, and we'll send you an invitation.
Yes, and Doc, I wanted to be in the building last year, but it was a conflict. Remember, I had something else going on around that time, but I'm going to be there. You said in August, I will be one in the number, Doc. So I'll see you around that time.
I can't wait to see you, Dr. Mahat. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Doc. And thank you to the B1 family in the building. Family, before you get out of here, make sure you thumb up the video, thumb it up, thumb it up, thumb it up. Also share this video, share it on social media. We want to each one teach one. And last but not least, family, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channels. I know some people on my channel, my platform, some people on your platform, but subscribe to both platforms, family. Hit the notification bell so that whenever any of us go live, you will be notified. Peace and Black excellence.
Let's combat and fight back with maltracks. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classics. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maya.